Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that most folks don't like to admit. When a man sees a woman he once had walk away, not with anger, not with bitterness, not with drama, but with peace, it shakes something in his soul. There's something powerful about walking away without saying a word. When a woman chooses peace over payback, silence over screaming, growth over games, she shifts the entire atmosphere. A peaceful exit isn't weakness, it's strength in its highest form. See, anybody can slam a door. Anybody can curse someone out. Anybody can create a scene. That's easy, but it takes maturity, control, and deep self-worth to say, I'm done, and never look back. You don't have to light bridges on fire when you know you'll never cross them again. That quiet confidence, it shakes people up more than any revenge plan ever could. When a man has hurt you, disappointed you, taken you for granted, he usually expects a reaction. That's what most are used to. Tears, texts, angry posts, a flood of emotions, and he thinks if he can trigger that reaction, it means he still has power over you. But when you don't give him that, when you pack your dignity, your silence, and your peace, and walk like a queen who already knows her value, he starts questioning everything. He doesn't admit it, of course. He might tell his friends he's unbothered. He might even post like he's living his best life. But deep inside, something is different. Because he can't figure out how you just disappeared from his world so effortlessly. No mess, no chaos, just peace. That's what haunts him. That's what keeps him awake. That's what he didn't see coming. You see, revenge is noisy, but peace is haunting. Revenge gets temporary attention, but peace leaves a lasting impression. When you choose to leave with grace, without dragging his name, without playing dirty, without giving him the satisfaction of seeing you break down, that's when he feels it the most. That's when he realizes he underestimated your strength. That's when it hits him that you didn't need closure because you became your own closure. What makes a peaceful exit so loud is what it says without saying a word. It says, you no longer deserve access to me. It says, you're not worth the war I could have started. It says, I've grown too much to shrink for you. That kind of exit echoes. It lingers in the mind long after you're gone because it's rare, because it's graceful. When you walk away peacefully, you stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to prove your worth to someone who couldn't see it in the first place. You stop begging for apologies, for explanations, for effort. Instead, you redirect all that energy back to yourself. You pour into your peace. You water your own garden. And soon the peace that replaced the pain becomes your glow. That glow doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't demand validation. It simply exists. And trust me, that glow, that healed energy, that undeniable light, it's louder than any words you could have thrown. Because now you're no longer fighting for someone to see your value. You're busy living it. A peaceful exit shows that you're not operating from bitterness. You're operating from awareness. You've seen what they had to offer and you respectfully declined it. You've realized your worth isn't tied to how much you endure, but how fast you walk away when your peace is threatened. You're not out to destroy anyone. You're just focused on building yourself. It's not about proving a point. It's about reaching a place where you don't need to. And believe me, that place, That's where real power lives. Because once a woman reaches the level where her silence becomes her response, her boundaries become her language, and her peace becomes her priority, there's nothing more threatening to someone who thought they had control over her. So while the world expects noise, you give them grace. While they expect a storm, you walk away like the calm after one. That's the kind of exit that makes a man look back, not because you made a scene, but because you didn't have to. Peace, when chosen over revenge, speaks the loudest language of all. There's a kind of silence that doesn't scream, doesn't cry, doesn't beg, but it speaks volumes. It's the silence of a woman who finally got tired of repeating herself. The silence of a woman who realized that words weren't going to change anything. The silence of a woman who no longer wants to be heard, she wants to be free. And when that silence falls, that's when a man starts to listen, not to your voice anymore, but to the void your absence left behind. Men don't always value you when you're available. They don't always appreciate you when you're giving, sacrificing, loving with your whole soul. Sometimes they get too comfortable. They take your presence for granted because you were always there. You answered the phone. You forgave. You stayed. Even when your heart was breaking, you kept choosing him. And he thought he had time. He thought you'd always be waiting. But silence changes everything. When you stop arguing, when you stop explaining, when you stop reaching out just to keep the connection alive, when you stop trying to be seen and instead disappear without noise, that's when he starts to feel it. Not right away. No, it usually takes a little time. At first, he might think you're just mad. He might assume you'll come back like you always did. But when the silence stretches longer, when the peace in your absence becomes undeniable, that's when it starts to hit him. Because now he's looking at a space that used to be filled by your presence, a space he thought would never be empty. He scrolls through his phone, looking at old messages that used to make him feel important. But there's nothing new. No check-ins, no just thinking about you texts, no late night calls. That silence, it doesn't just echo, it confronts him. It forces him to reflect. It forces him to wonder why you're really gone this time. See, a man can ignore your words. He can pretend he didn't hear your pleas or shrug off your tears. But your silence, your complete removal from his world, that speaks a language even he can't ignore. Because silence says you're no longer trying to fix what he kept breaking. It says you're done trying to prove your worth. It says, I loved you enough to fight for us, but now I love myself enough to walk away. And that silence doesn't just sit quietly, it grows. It shows up when he's alone, when he's lying in bed at night wondering where you are and who you've become. He starts to remember your laughter, your warmth, the way you used to support him when no one else did, the things he overlooked, the kindness he mistook for weakness. It all starts to come back piece by piece. And in that stillness, in that deep regret, he begins to see the woman you always were. But by then, you've changed. You're not the same woman who begged for a text back. You're not the same woman who cried for consistency. You're the woman who chose herself, who found healing in peace, who grew in silence. And now that he's finally listening, he realizes he lost something real. There's nothing louder than the silence of someone who loved you deeply and decided to walk away without revenge. That silence carries dignity, power, grace, and it cuts deeper than anger ever could because it doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of peace. A woman's silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's full of every truth she couldn't say, every wound she couldn't heal in that relationship, every piece of herself she had to reclaim. And that's when he realizes your work wasn't in the noise, it was in your presence. And now that presence is gone. Now you're no longer waiting, chasing, explaining. Now you've gone quiet and he's left in the echo of everything he didn't appreciate. And the saddest part, he can't call you back with words because now you found something better than his attention. You found peace. Nothing unsettles a man more than seeing a woman thrive without him, especially when he thought she couldn't. He might act unbothered. He might pretend like your growth doesn't affect him, but deep inside, something shifts. His ego starts to feel the weight of what it lost. Because when he sees you glowing, really glowing, not pretending, it hits different. It's not the makeup or the clothes or the photo. It's the confidence in your eyes. It's the calm in your spirit. It's the way you laugh like you're free now. That glow, that hurts his pride more than any argument ever could. Men may not admit this openly, but their ego feeds off the idea that you need them, that you'll struggle without them, that you'll fall apart the moment they walk away. So when they leave or push you away, they expect to see you crumble. They expect the sadness, the silence, the isolation. What they don't expect is for you to transform, to start leveling up, to start healing, to start attracting better energy, better opportunities, and most of all, better peace. Your glow becomes a mirror. It reflects everything he failed to see in you when he had the chance. He sees you smiling in a way you never did with him. He sees your skin glowing, your energy renewed, your vibe elevated, and he starts asking questions. Was she always this beautiful? Was she always this strong? Did I really overlook that? And the answer is yes, you were always that woman. He just didn't appreciate it. He did protect it. And now that light is shining without him and it burns. That glow ain't fake. It's not for show. It's the product of healing, of boundaries, of choosing yourself, of no longer tolerating half love, broken promises, or emotional breadcrumbs. That kind of glow doesn't come from a rebound. It comes from inner work, from nights you cried yourself to sleep and woke up anyway, from learning to love yourself when he didn't know how. And now that you stepped into that light, his ego can't handle it. You're no longer the woman he left behind. You're the woman who grew through the pain, rebuilt her confidence, and came out brighter than ever. And that brightness, it highlights his dullness. It reminds him that you didn't need him to shine. You just needed space to breathe. You just needed peace to thrive. And the fact that you're not only surviving, but glowing, that's what bruises him the most. He starts comparing who you are now to who you were with him. Comparing your glow now to the dim version he created. And in that comparison, he sees the truth. He didn't lose the woman you used to be. He lost the woman you've become. A woman who no longer chases, who no longer accepts crumbs, who knows her worth and walks in it unapologetically. Your glow makes him reflect not just on you, but on himself, on how he fumbled a blessing, on how he underestimated someone who was only ever trying to love him right. And because he knows he no longer has access to your light, he starts to miss it. He starts to realize that peace, that energy, that softness, that warmth, it wasn't common, it wasn't replaceable, it was rare, and now it's gone. That glow isn't revenge, it's rebirth, it's resilience. It's you deciding that your life wasn't going to stop just because a chapter ended. And whether he admits it or not, whether he says anything or not, trust me, he notices. Every picture, every smile, every silent success. It all adds up and it all bruises that ego that once thought you wouldn't make it without him. When a woman rises without the one who doubted her, it changes the game. When she glows from within, not to attract him back, but to celebrate herself, that's when she becomes untouchable. And when you become untouchable, that's when his ego finally feels the loss it tried to avoid. There's a moment that always comes after the dust settles, when the drama ends and the silence begins, and that moment is where regret is born. At first, it doesn't show up clearly. It hides behind pride, denial, distractions. He might convince himself he made the right choice or that you'll come back like before. But when a woman truly walks away, not in anger, but in complete peace, it does something to a man. It plants a quiet kind of guilt in his heart, one that grows slowly. Because peace, real peace, can't be faked. And when he sees you carry it with grace, without bitterness or revenge, that's when it hits him. That's when the regret becomes loud. A man doesn't expect peace after a breakup. He expects fire. He expects you to lash out, argue, spiral, because that's how he measures how much you cared. He believed that if you really loved him, you'll fight to stay. So when you don't fight, when you don't scream, when you don't chase, he doesn't know what to do with that. When you simply step back, straighten your crown, and keep moving with peace in your heart, that's when he realizes something's different. That peace is not passive, it's powerful. It's not the absence of pain, it's the decision to no longer be ruled by it. You didn't choose peace because it was easy. You chose it because you were tired. Tired of repeating yourself. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of giving your all and still being made to feel like it wasn't enough. And when you finally stopped explaining yourself, stopped overextending, and started protecting your energy, you began to glow in a way he didn't expect. You became untouchable. Not because you were angry, but because you were done. That peace, that's what keeps him up at night. That's what makes him scroll through your photos at 2 a.m. That's what makes him question how he let you go so easily. Because you're not out there trying to get revenge. You're not trying to prove a point. You're not throwing shade or chasing closure. You're just living, smiling, healing, evolving. And nothing stings more than watching someone you once hurt rise up without a single attempt to destroy you in return. The peace you carry reminds him of the peace he disturbed. It reminds him that you were never the problem, that your love wasn't chaotic, it was consistent, that your presence wasn't needy, it was nurturing. And now that it's gone, he feels the void. But he also knows he can't fill it with just anyone, because peace like yours isn't something that can be replaced. It was real, it was rare, and he treated it like it was ordinary. You didn't post angry quotes, you didn't try to make him jealous, you didn't blast your story across social media, you simply elevated. You chose to be quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you finally accepted that saying more wouldn't make him understand. So you turned inward. You healed, you stopped trying to be seen, by someone who refused to see you